The differences between the spring and the fall session are often misunderstood simply because there's a lot of misinformation available online. In this video, I'm going to make sure that you get genuine, reliable expertise. We've sent more than 15,000 students for their study abroad journey, and I personally was one of them. And now, today, I'm going to be telling you what's the major differences between spring and fall term, and I'm going to be clarifying any myths out there. The information in this video, you can be rest assured, is well researched, it's genuine, and it's from someone working in the industry for more than 5 years already. On top of that, I'll give you an invaluable resource in this video for completely free, which you can actually use to see the admissions of spring versus fall people as well. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you like the content, and remember, my number is always in the description if you ever need to reach out. Let's start with the video now. The first point that I want you to understand is a critical difference between the spring and the fall terms is the course availability. Almost any program that you're looking to go for, whether it's Masters in Computer Science, MBA, Public Health, right, PhDs, whatever you're looking for, in the fall term, that is in the September term, August-September term, you will essentially find that almost every university will be starting the cohort, they'll be offering the program, you'll be able to apply to almost any university you want. However, when it comes to the spring or the January intake, what happens is that many universities will have very limited cohorts starting. That means maybe there's a Masters in Computer Science program because the degree is very popular. However, maybe when it comes to public health, the program is simply not there. Please understand that these differences will exist. So when you go for spring, essentially my point is that you will have lesser number of choices in terms of universities. Hey, in fact, some of your dream universities that you may want to apply to may not be offering the kind of program that you wish to go for. Please keep that in mind. Let's move on to the next one. The fall term will have more number of seats. That means more availability in terms of the number of students that they are taking in the cohort. So the cohort is in itself the biggest cohort of the year. The spring one, however, will be a smaller cohort. There will be lesser number of seats. And the next point is where the biggest misconception exists. People think just because there's more number of seats in fall, that means it's easier to get in, so they should apply for fall only, and spring is difficult to get in. That is, however, not the case. Take it from me, after sending more than 15,000 students overseas, I can assure you that the admissions sometimes can be easier in spring than in the fall itself. That means when you actually go for admissions, understand this. When it comes to fall, everyone all over the world graduating from their previous college or high school is now going to be applying for fall. That means fall is perfectly placed. Right after their graduation, if they don't want any gap, after their previous institution, they go on to the next college, they apply, right? However, for spring, that's generally not the case. Most programs finish off around August or before August, more or less, right? That means for the spring intake, for the January intake, this person has already either, number one, been in the industry, or number two, they are someone who has had a gap after their education. So please understand this. It's a major part of importance. Sometimes spring admissions can be easier simply because there's less number of people applying, and usually there's always less number of people applying, and hence the number of seats, even though they are lesser, they are sometimes quite enough to accommodate you. And I've sometimes made videos about this when I was personally surprised also when spring admissions actually took in students which generally would not be taken in the fall cohorts by certain universities. Now, I want you to understand this is not a trivial matter. I understand you would like to do your research. Well, for that research, go on to the admits and rejects page on YMGrad.com. We have the spring and fall filter. That means you can actually go ahead, choose the cohort you want to look at the admits and rejects for. You can decide which university you want to see the admits for. You can decide what kind of funding you want to have in the admissions, right? And accordingly, you can see what kind of profiles got in, both for spring and fall for the same universities if you'd like. This research is something you can very easily do simply by going on to YMGrad.com and doing it all by yourself for free. There's nothing that needs to be paid for in this data. Now, let me tell you about a major difference that most people are not telling you about between spring and fall. And while spring may have other advantages, this one can turn out to be a disadvantage. for spring. Understand this, guys. If you're going to the US, and this is only valid for the US, you are eligible for only on-campus positions for the first 9 months. That means for the first 2 terms, right? After you've finished your first 2 terms, that means your 9 months of education is complete, you are now eligible for CPT, that's curricular practical training. That means now you're allowed to work off campus. Now this off-campus job may be part-time or full-time, but now the CPT has been enforced. When you go in for fall, right after your 9 months, there are these summer holidays. That means that you can now enjoy working full-time, that is 40 hours a week off campus without any limitations on that front. It's going to make your life very easier. It's very well placed, right? However, for spring, the summer vacations come with just about 5 to 6 months of term going on. That means that you're not right now eligible for CPT. You cannot go for the CPT. You're still having to work on campus during your summer vacations. So that's one major difference, and that's where fall takes away the lead as well. Please understand that after your 9 months, even for the spring term, during your winter vacations, you can work full time for the spring term, right? Or during your education, you can work part-time. You can have part-time CPT, right? You can still do it, but for fall, it's going to be easier well placed with your summer vacations. However, of course, the competition is going to be much higher as well when it comes to positions. So please keep that in mind. The next major point is housing. For fall students, finding housing can be sometimes easier because most leases in the US, and you have to lease an apartment mostly when you go over there, they begin in the months of fall itself. So when previous students from the previous cohorts are leaving those housing options, that's when you have them easily available. However, when it comes to spring, there are less lease options because first off, most houses do not have a lease starting from spring, simply because, as you may understand, the bulk of the students came in during fall, right? Now, even though you may find sublet or basically someone letting you live there, right, you will have to make arrangements. When it comes to off-campus housing, sometimes it can get a little bit difficult. Of course, if your campus provides on-campus housing and they have options for spring, it would make your life a lot easier. But yes, there will still be housing, and if you are going for spring, I wouldn't worry too much about this point. Let's talk about classes. Please understand, when you're in a class, you will enroll in a course, right? In any program, let's say you are studying computer science and you enroll in a machine learning course. In this machine learning course, please understand that there will be, let's say, 60 students in the class, 40 could be from fall and 20 could have started in spring. Hence, in your class at any point in time, there could be students from the fall cohort and from the spring cohort. It does not matter as to when you've started this program, you can still be in the same classroom. Hence, the quality of education and the exact courses and everything else remains the exact same. You do not need to worry about it. Let's talk assistantships, teaching assistantships, resident assistantships, graduate assistantships, research assistantships, all of these, right? I understand that these bring in funding, these bring in money to your pockets, right? And they're on-campus employment. So you're eligible from day one, right? When you go for fall, generally you will see that more positions are available. However, the competition will also be higher, essentially because the students from the last cohort who have just graduated, they will be leaving those positions, right? Or the ones who are now eligible for CPT, right? They are going to be taking over, right? Different positions, and they are going to leave the previous positions that they have in the cafeteria or something, or teaching assistantship position, right? However, you at this point will have an option to get that one, right? But if you get that one, please understand that there will be a lot of competition as well. So more positions, more competition. Same thing. Spring, less number of positions, and generally you would not see a lot of positions for assistantship starting in spring. But still, if you see any, there will be less competition as well. Now that brings us to the next point, which is the visa slot openings. Now this is where our personal expertise comes in. We've done a lot of cases, more than 15K cases of visas as well. We've done in the last 4 years itself, I would say. I think 3 years, we are crossing more than 16,000 recently. There were a lot of cases. So a lot of cases we've been doing for visas. And what I can tell you is that for the visas, especially for the US, there's a lot of issue of visa slot availability. That means you can't book an appointment to go ahead for a visa interview. Now, if that's an issue that you are worried about, understand that for fall, there will be a lot more openings. You will have more opportunities based on my personal experience. For spring, you will have maybe about 1 or 2 openings itself where the slots will be available. So of course, those slots open up for about 5-10 minutes sometimes, and then they go away very, very quickly. The opening is over. If you don't get it, you have to defer to the next term if there's no opening left for the term. Please keep that in mind. In terms of alignment with continued education, I would say fall is better placed again, simply because right after your previous degree or your high school, you can directly start with the fall term. You do not need to wait for 6 months. However, spring is not aligned as well. Please note, however, if you're in the industry though, or if you are not able to make it to fall, spring would be still a very good term, and I would personally not waste 6 months of my life and I would go for it. In terms of jobs as well, please understand that fall is better aligned. There will be more job fairs happening on campus. You will have more availability in terms of employers. There will be more positions as well because employers know that you're graduating in fall, right? However, when it comes to spring, there will be lesser availability of positions, but at the same point in time, please understand that the competition will also be lower. Of course, with your CPT requirements and everything, sometimes you have better connections with employers when you come out of spring simply because you were working CPT almost part-time, almost the entire degree. These little things will start to matter as well. So I would not say spring is something that concedes here. Yet, at the same time, if you want more availability of positions, fall would be the better option. So the question after doing this comparison, of course, arises is that, is fall better than spring? My answer to that at this point would be an absolute no. I would not say that any term is better than the other. In fact, sometimes I told you, spring has even lower competition. So my advice is, if spring saves you 6 months of waiting time, it's better to go for spring. Do not waste time because those 6 months are way more valuable as compared to these minor issues and differences that you would face with a spring cohort. This is Yash Mitra again, signing off. If you like the video, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to follow me on Instagram, or you can connect with me on my WhatsApp number below. And thank you so much for watching this video and spending your valuable time with me.